So having heard the IG reel out the conduct expected of participants in those rerun elections, let's get to hear from those who then played active roles to see how did they play out. Akwa?
Well, we have with us in the studios this morning Igini Ibom, who is the publicity secretary of the PDP. Just yesterday, we had with us the resident electoral commissioner of INEC in Akwa Ibom State, and he was very vehement about some of the practices that had been happening in Akwa Ibom before his arrival. If you permit me, I'm just going to take some of his quotes before. He talked about 23 polling units being in the compounds of politicians before that time and how they had to relocate the polling units outside. He talked about the fact, he talked about the PDP and the APC being one. Let me use his exact words now. He says, APC, Akwa Ibom, and PDP, they are the same people tied together in a single garment of one destiny. They've always been together before. Forget about all this mutation. It's not whether you agree with me, but it's about the fact on ground. He also talked about, not conducting elections, but allocation of results. And that part of what we're trying to see, what we're seeing right now, why there seems to be so much, attention, or let me say, tossing and pulling in Akwa Ibom State, is because he's trying to conduct proper elections, and we're seeing that the politicians on the ground are not supporting that particular move. Was that what went down at the rerun, which was conducted on Saturday?
You know, Mark, good morning and happy New Year. With every human experiment, with every human ideology, you expect a progression towards the better end. So I may not argue with the exact details with Mike Igini Esquire, but democracy, even in the federal level, you know that every election hopes to be a progressive towards a progression, towards a better part of what you can compare what happened in 2015 with what happened in 2007. But it is true that upon his arrival, he identified, when they say we're in the houses of people, at the time of state creation, in 1999, some government offices were still in private homes. Now, for example, you could have a house, and those offices, INEC, at that point, would place it because maybe a ministry was there. So while it was a private property at the time of ownership, but at the time of allocating, a ministry was there. And he made sure he removed all of that. In 2000, before we went for the 2019 elections, he clearly said that these could no longer be there because the ministries had moved out and they had become private properties. He did that. That is true. But now, for what happened in the rerun, it is true that people are resisting the change towards the practice of real democracy. And therefore, you discover that in the rerun election, you had 6 polling units in the house of a person. Not that INEC allocated those polling units there, no. Materials, personnel, electoral materials and personnel were found in the house of someone. And the PPRO of the Akwa Ibom State Command of the Police identified that house as belonging to Ibang Akpabio in their press release. And Ibang Akpabio works with the Honorable Minister for Niger Delta Affairs, who was a candidate of the APC in that elections. Materials, personnel, security, corps members were found in their residence at home. You see, so the truth is that I agree with the disposition of Mr. President. In fact, we are putting Akwa Ibom rerun as a test case for both for the President, the INEC chairman, and the Inspector General of Police. They have a test case to see. Mr. President desires that we have excellent elections in 2023, but it will start with January 25th, 2020 rather. So you have a test case where INEC is ready. INEC puts everything on ground to do the elections. The Inspector General of Police indicated that, look, we will not tolerate a situation where people do not adhere to regulations. But here, in January 2020, we have a situation where 79 thugs are arrested from a residence of someone who belongs to the APC. Now, we have a situation where corps members are arrested on camera. We have a situation where the police command in Akwa Ibom issues a statement and identifies that building as belonging to someone. But Mark, as we speak, the 79 people have been released. So it is a test case. It is easy to desire that, look, I will hand over a democracy where the wishes of the people would be transmitted through the ballot box. It's a desire. The political will, we are questioning the political will of the entire system, from the presidency to the police to INEC, the political will to convey this desire to reality. Everyone desires, including the people who don't want elections to hold properly. They desire a utopian situation where the wishes of the people would prevail.
But your candidate has been declared, despite all the irregularities which you point at, your candidate has been declared the winner. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
If that is the case, I mean, what do we now make of INEC now saying that they rejected the results of Saturday's rerun in the STN Udim local government area, where officials were abducted and forced to compromise the process?
Well, if you read that statement through, it rejects the units where the infractions occurred. And irrespective of the units where the infractions occurred, the majority, is because this thing is domiciled in a small place. It's only in the minister's ward. This happened only in his ward. And if you read the Court of Appeal judgment describing the elections that happened, the only local government area in the entire 31 local government areas in Akwa Ibom where elections had to go for a rerun was in his own local government, where the Court of Appeal described in the worst adjectives I've had in a court judgment. Because he allowed a reign of terror. He sponsored a reign of terror there.
That's your accusation. Let's go to Lagos now and take a perspective of another guest. Chamberlain.
Well, yes, we've got Igini, who is the chairman of the APC in Akwa Ibom. So he joins us via Skype this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Well, I'm not sure if you heard the comments of Igini as well, who is of the PDP, saying that some of those thugs, in fact, those thugs are working for your party, and the way some of the elections also went, accusing fingers pointed at your party. How do you respond?
Yeah, Chamberlain, thank you very much for joining me this morning for clarification of some of this blackmail and falsified information given to the nation of Nigeria. My brother, my junior brother in Ibom, has been the publicity secretary of PDP in Akwa Ibom State. And himself and Mike Igini, the resident electoral commissioner, they are hand in gloves. Whatever Mike says, that is what Ibom says. So, except yesterday when I listened to Mike Igini, and he said that prior to his coming, Akwa Ibom had never been used to conducting election. I think that's an indictment on INEC itself. So I don't know whether Ibom agrees with what he said. On the election, the rerun election in Akwa Ibom State, APC had taken a clear position, and we had addressed the world press and had withdrawn completely as a result of lack of confidence in the resident electoral commissioner, and we had withdrawn from the election and announced that to the whole world. So it's very, very, very funny that anybody can allude to any fact that we in APC were part of whatever happened in the Senate. We were not them, we were not part of it. I don't know who did what. But from investigations, we discovered that they, in their characteristic blackmail, in their characteristics of pointing accusing fingers at the opposition party in Akwa Ibom State, they did what they did. They planned and failed because probably they never knew we were not going to partake in the election. So all they did in the Senate was masterminded and sponsored by them, by the APC, by the PDP. Sorry.
But concerning the withdrawal of your participating in that election, one would have thought that looking at the process, would it not be better you participate in that election? Because, I mean, there are two things. We also heard the INEC chairman saying it's a court-ordered rerun. It's not a fresh one. So the reasons that you had accusing the REC of bias doesn't have any basis, because the law, according to the time frame of the law, you also heard Mike say that yesterday, I believe, that the time to substitute candidate had elapsed. So there was no reason for you accusing him of bias. Did that fly?
No. That is not the issue, Chamberlain. You see, before now, 2 years ago, we had been complaining of the activities of the resident electoral commissioner of being unfair to us as a party, APC. So our resolution, in fact, we had been crying to this world, to the INEC in Nigeria, that we need an unbiased umpire in Akwa Ibom State to conduct election for us, but that nobody answered us. And so we were expecting that something was going to happen. In fact, we were prepared for the election. I had even personally submitted the list of agents to INEC for the conduct of the election. So when eventually he still stayed, and we just felt there was no way we could have a fair deal. You see, if the mindset of an umpire like Igini is inflexible and fixed, definitely the outcome can be predicted. So we knew where he was going from, where he was coming from, and we knew where he was going. The issue of withdrawal I think it's a novel issue because it may have never happened in Nigeria. So that is subject to determination by the judiciary if that had arisen. Because he had withdrawn and said he was not contesting again. So that should have been left for the judiciary to determine if that was allowed.
With respect to those political thugs, since you say that it is, the PDP planned and failed because you didn't participate, would you then like to see a process whereby the DIGs who were posted to supervise those elections prosecute those persons, those political thugs who, since you say they don't work for your party, would you like to see the police prosecute those people and not just have them released as the PDP person says that they have been released?
Well, my brother, I don't even know who was arrested. I don't know who was not arrested because they were not part of the exercise. Honestly, we were even warning them that if anything should happen to any of our members or any house of our supporters or leader, we will hold them responsible. So we wouldn't even know who was arrested and who was not arrested. We were not there, we were not part of it. So if anybody was arrested and released, it's still the gimmick of the PDP.
Response from Ibom as well. Akwa.
Thank you, Chamberlain. So they were not a part of this election. There was this huge controversy before the polls as to whether or not the candidate of the APC could withdraw, because he kept on saying he had withdrawn from the elections and perhaps the party should be allowed to substitute. But INEC maintains that he was the candidate and that the time for substitution had elapsed. And so the APC will have to continue with him in the rerun polls. But right now they maintain that because of that letter, they were not a part of the elections. Can you confirm that?
They were actively involved in the elections. You see, the dramatist person in all of this, just like the chairman of APC is a former member of the PDP. So Mike Igini was partially right when he said we are the same, but the difference is that we are doing a sifting process where we are giving out the people we don't want in our party, to the other side. Now, the truth is, the night before the elections, he held a press conference and said they were withdrawing the House of Assembly. In the House of Assembly, they said that the court judgment did not say rerun should take place. In the House of Reps, they said they were withdrawing. In the Senate, they said they were withdrawing. But you withdrew. You claim to have withdrawn, but materials were found in the house of Ibom Akwa. Ibom Akwa is not just a cousin of Senator Akwa. He works, W-O-R-K, and works with W-A-L-K, with Senator Akwa. In fact, at this point, if they are watching this program, they are sitting together. So now, PDP took materials with core members, with police, assisted by another cousin of Senator Akwa, who was brought back on board. Remember, we used to talk about one super leader in Akwa. He was the one who hijacked the materials. Now, the police command, and the state chairman of APC is saying that he doesn't know what happened, but the police command in Akwa has issued a statement agreeing with INEC that these materials and personnel were abducted, and we found them in a house later identified to belong to Ibom Akwa. And he's not worried about it. He has not challenged that finding. And the police currently is under the Inspector General of Police, and the federal government is controlled by the APC. They've not challenged that finding. For a local government election, rerun in a local government, they brought a DIG to supervise. A DIG, Mikey Busy. He has not said that. They were actively handing gloves into the election. They were actively involved. They had 2 agents against what INEC wants. They had 2 agents per unit, all through a Serodom local government area. In some places, they signed and collected result sheets. You see, so this idea, the whole idea was a facade. It was a charade. What they wanted to do was to say, we are not participating in the election, so that everyone would relax. And they would now go do what they used to do in elections. And when INEC would now be forced to say, well, you won. He even granted an interview to some journalists on that day, and the journalist asked, yes, you're saying you're withdrawing. If the result favors you, he said, if it favors us, we'll take. That's, in your Yokobido, it's on air. He said, if the result favors us, he said, yes, you say you have withdrawn. But what if on the ground, this result now favors you? What would you do? He said, we would accept it. So the accusation against Mike Igini is completely unfounded. Mike Igini came to that place. Who posted Mike Igini there? Let them be truthful. They lobbied, got everything, and brought Mike Igini to Akwa Ibom. Because as at the time they brought Mike Igini to Akwa Ibom, they had confidence that a rec would ensure that the elections is done. Now the man is doing what you brought him to do. Because they thought that they had the federal government. They thought they had NDDC in their hands. They thought that we go to Akwa Ibom, the magic that Akwa Ibom will fall will be there. And I came here and I told you that PDP is almost like a religion in Akwa Ibom State. And no matter who leaves the PDP, that the winning machinery, and we've been in power for 20 unbroken years there. And every single development you find in Akwa Ibom is brought by the PDP. The people are attached to it. In the formation of the PDP, Akwa Ibom people played a critical role in the formation of PDP in this country. Therefore, we still hold it as one of our contributions to democracy in Nigeria. It is difficult. Recall that I said all through the election process that Chief Akpabio would lose election in his local government area, and it has come to happen. So the accusation against Igini is completely unfounded. The gentleman has followed every process. That same Inyokobido said that they had evidence that Igini called people and said they shouldn't vote for the APC. Till today, that evidence has not come out.
Let's swing it back to Lagos now. Chamberlain.
Oh, yes, naturally. Mr. Okobido, you heard direct accusations against you there. Are those true?
None of them is true, my brother. When that Saturday morning, they threw some trashes into the internet, and it got to my attention, and then the Inspiration Radio called my attention and said that this is what the PDP people in the Senate are doing. They're accusing you of APC of masterminding the violence in the Senate. I told them that was not true. And they asked me one singular question, which they said, you have dissociated yourself, you are not participating in the election, assuming. I said, if Mike Igini repents today and decides to award the election to APC, that there will be no issue with that the party will take down and take a decision before we know what to do. I never told anybody that we were going to accept what? We had withdrawn from the election. Chamberlain, let me tell you, the honorable member for House of Assembly who represented the CNUD, Honorable Nsentwen, won the election on the 9th of March and was declared duly elected by the returning officer. But I tell you, up till date, even after he was, they took him to tribunal and he still won, the resident electoral commission and INEC refused to give him certificate of return up till today. The law is that if a returning officer declares a candidate elected, the only option open to anybody is to go to tribunal. But this is not what INEC did. They refused to give the member, House of Assembly elect at that time, certificate of return till today. And when we went to tribunal, let me tell you, Mike Igini, in one of his public utterances, declared that any aggrieved APC person that goes to tribunal is a noisemaker. And it's just
so, let me ask you this before we go to break. Could you respond to this briefly before we go to break? He also named a member of your party who election materials were found in his house. He says the man has not denied it till today. Is that the case?
That is not correct. A member who knows Ibang Akpabio's house, when they were all playing together, they were all living in that house. I'm sure they planned it and packed those things to that house because they know it. It's behind one of the commissioner's house. So if anything happens to that house, we hold them responsible. They jumped through the fence into that compound and held the security man captive. All these are obvious things that happened.
All right, we'll give both of you a minute each. When we go back in a moment, stay with us.
Our closing moments now. Igini Bong is still with us as Publicity Secretary of the PDP. Your candidate has been declared the winner in spite of all the infractions which you allege. You're certainly not going to court, are you?
No, we're not, but we're insisting that to curb these negative precedents, now that issues have been joined, I'm excited at the fairy tale or the comedy disposition that we jumped in. So let the police, we now want the 79 suspects arrested there. We now want the Inspector General of Police to order full-scale investigation. Let the owner of the house come and tell us there are CCTV cameras in that house. The people were arrested, relaxed, doing their thing. So let him come and tell us how he knew, how he saw that we jumped in, and which part of the fence we used to jump in. Issues have been joined. We are now inviting the Inspector General of Police to start. The president has a disposition that he wants free, fair, peaceful elections in 2023. We want it to start with 2020 rerun. And it should start in a Senate there, where a member of his party has been accused by the police, identified that people, election material, and personnel were found in his residence. We now want full-scale investigation. We want Mike Igini to also tell us his part of the story.
1 minute is up. We have to go at this point. Thank you so much for coming on.
Very much.
Igini Bong is Publicity Secretary of the PDP. It's over to you now, Chamberlain.
Well, yes, let's also get Igini Okobido to give his 1 minute response. Well, Igini, haven't heard him. What next for your party now?
Chamberlain, what we are saying is that we want an unbiased umpire in Akwa Ibom State that will help us conduct free and acceptable election. You see, when we say Igini is biased, we have every reason to state so. Let me tell you 2 reasons. On the election day, you know, we had 2 elections, presidential and presidential National Assembly, and then House of Assembly and governorship. The 2 elections we won in a synod, and he successfully cancelled the 2 elections. Is it by coincidence that we won about 61,000 to 6,000 by the PDP? He cancelled that one personally, as testified by his own returning officer. That's what he told us at the tribunal, that after the election, he asked him to bring the result to you, and he took it to his office. He brought it down. Now tell me, if you bring down 61,000 votes, how do you apportion the votes? How do you apportion to which party? Who gets what? Then on the second day, on the 9th of March, the House of Assembly candidate won the election in a synod. He refused to issue his certificate of return.
All right, Mr. Okobido. We appreciate your time this morning. Igini Okobido is the chairman of the APC in Akwa Ibom. So thank you again for talking to us today. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at some feedback coming through from you out there. We've got Kingsley. Kingsley sends in a comment about curbing electoral violence. He says, we can have electronic voting system devoid of malpractices and manipulation if the political class is willing to toe the path of patriotism. Anyone who comes to power through fraudulent means will definitely not do the will of the people.
Well, Zimo tweets about national security, saying we should learn to praise when it's worth it and condemn when we should. A lot more needs to be done in terms of security by this government, but to say banditry and bombings haven't reduced is not true, or have reduced. Well, opposition is not always about condemnation.
And Baba King 85, also national security. Everyone needs to be on the same page in security in our society. In securing our society, community, state, regional, and federal policing should be well funded to protect lives and properties. A safe society is a prosperous society. God bless Nigeria.
For watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Well, I don't have a tweet.
Oh, don't worry. You will have one tomorrow. We can assure you. I'm Chamberlain. What's up?
I'm Kayode Okikelu.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day.
And I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf. See you again.